Yo, people, we are back for another edition of Commissioners Corner. Of course, I'm your host and the most, NK, aka the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. But of course, I'm not alone. I am joined by the UK's #1 black pro wrestling historian. We got Knowledge, the man himself. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm watching. Well, I'm not watching it, but it's on. I've got a WWE house show for Madison Square Garden from March 16th, 1997, right on my television right now, and I'm watching
What's the main event?
The main event is The Undertaker against Vader in a coffin match. Yeah, sounds great. And Rocky Maivia against Hunter Hearst Helmsley for the Intercontinental title. And right now, the Sultan is wrestling Flash Funk in the opener. Pretty shitty wrestling, really.
You know what? I always wanted to ask you about Vader because Vader is obviously like a wrestler. His most like noteworthy runs have been like outside of WWE, particularly in Japan and stuff like that. What? Maybe it's a longer conversation, but what went wrong with his WWF run?
What went wrong with his WWE run? Well, if you listen to them, they talk about his weight. They talk about his weight. Bruce and the rest of them talk about Vader's weight, and they say that he was too heavy when he went there.
Yeah.
Truth is that Vader still worked really well. He was heavy when he went there, but it's not as if it affected his matches. He still really had really good matches in WWE. The main issue really was that he wasn't a Vince McMahon guy, and that's just what it is, unfortunately. And also, Vader was really stiff, and like Shawn Michaels, he did a program with Shawn Michaels. Shawn really didn't want to wrestle him, because Vader was so stiff. And there's a match they had on TV where Shawn had a hissy fit in the match, and yeah, it wasn't good for Vader in WWE. And also, I mean, there were times when they sent him to fat camp to lose weight and shit like that. They really used to fuck with people back then. They really used to fuck with people. They used to really make people feel like shit. And they had him lose on TV to Ahmed Johnson in like 2 minutes one time. I remember that. And it was fucking Vader. He's like the former IWGP champion, former UWFI champion, and it's like, that guy and lose to Ahmed Johnson in 2 minutes. It's one of them things where I don't understand why they used to do that. They'd hire somebody, give them a load of money, and then instead of making more money with them, it's like, you fucking used to work for Ted Turner or whatever. And it's like, and I never understood why they do that. They did it with him. They did it with Dusty. They did it with Ronnie Garvin. They did it with a few guys that they signed from WCW. They get the guys and they just treat them like shit because they work for WCW. And yeah. Truth is, Vader went in. He could have been big shit. He could have been big, but
yeah, because it's always
like greatest big man of all time. Vader, one of the best of all time.
Yeah, because it's always like I always say like when people talk about Vader, they talk about like the like you said, the stuff in Japan or stuff that the stuff basically outside WWF. When I wouldn't say Vader typically looks like a Vince guy, but he's like a big burly guy, and I was surprised when Vince didn't take a liking to him. Even though he was fat, he was still like a pretty intimidating presence. Tall guy, big guy.
But he's an athletic. He was athletic too. He could do moonsaults, and he was a great bumper as well. But yeah, once again, Vince McMahon's weird, bro. Like, he's just a weird guy,
Weird
but
guy.
if you ever want to look Vader up, he's got so much good work in Japan, and he beat Inoki in 2 minutes. That was his first match in New Japan. Was that he pinned Antonio Inoki in 2 minutes, which was like, that never happened, like, ever. But
yeah,
he had fantastic matches against Keiji Muto. He had a really good match with Inoki at a Tokyo Dome show in 1996, January 4th, 1996. He had this match with Antonio Inoki. I'm gonna tell you, that match was so good, considering Inoki was old at the time. Like, they had an excellent match. Then he won the Triple Crown when he left WWE, because his confidence was all the way gone when he was in WWE. You could tell he wasn't the same guy. He left, well, he got fired, actually. They got rid of him. And then he got a job with All Japan. And, dude, I'm going to tell you, that guy went to All Japan and he fucking had his working shoes on. Man was belting out classes with Masawa, bro. He had a match with Masawa at the Tokyo Dome. at the Giant Barber anniversary show, brother. And I'll tell you, bro, like it was such a good match. Like such a good match. He won the Triple Crown. And then he went to Noah. But even in WCW, you had banging matches with Sting. The best matches of Sting's career were with Vader. And he had,
really?
best matches of Sting's career were with Vader. And he had this absolutely fantastic match with Ric Flair at a Starrcade as well. Like one of the greatest, like big man, little man matches you'll ever see. It was incredible. Vader's one of those guys who, because he wasn't really a WWE guy and his best work is outside of WWE.
He gets lost in history.
Yeah, he gets lost in history, I think. And it's a shame because he's a hell of a wrestler. Hell of a wrestler. Didn't shower much though.
Oh, hygiene.
Actually, do you remember when Will Ospreay was on the Rest Things? Do you remember I spoke to him about that? Do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah,
He confirmed that Vader didn't wash his gear.
Yeah. Speaking of interviews on Restings, we have an interview that is making the waves on social media right now and on our channel, and that is our interview with current New Japan Strong champion Gabe Kidd. So if you have not seen that interview, if you've been living under a rock, please go and check out that interview. Hello,
Gabe in this interview, was he talk about his
Gabe talks about
his
a lot.
Football fandom, his stamp collection. What does he talk? His coin collection. All that stuff.
Gabe Kidd talks a lot about him obviously going through the LA dojo system in New Japan. Talks rigorously about his training under Shibata, just like how he struggled to get through that system, because he went into the LA dojo and Shibata flat told him that you're too overweight, you're too fat to be a wrestler, but you basically got to lose weight to even train, to even get the opportunity to train in the LA dojo. So he talks about like how like that experience is not for the fit, it's not for the weak, and he calls it like one of the most grueling experiences he's had in life. He talks about, obviously, Gabe Kidd's a very confident, bordering on arrogant man. So he talks a lot about
his own Gabe Kidd way.
Yeah. So he talks a lot about his aspirations in New Japan, what he wants to achieve in New Japan. And it's a Gabe Kidd interview, so you can't escape the shit talking. He calls out a lot of wrestlers, he calls out a lot of people in the industry, in New Japan, outside of New Japan. Fantasy books a couple dream matches, but we really get into the psyche of Gabe Kidd. It's probably one of the more personal interviews I think Gabe's had. Underneath the bravado, there's a man under there, and I think this interview kind of shows the man behind the wrestler. So if you haven't seen the Gabe Kidd interview, please check it out.
That's right.
But big up Navy in the comment section. Big up everyone who is watching live. Like I said before, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. We've got hella content coming out for you. We've got Resting's house on the way. So keep a lookout for that in the next coming months. But yeah, we've got tons of content for you on Restings, such as this. But this weekend's been an interesting weekend. Obviously, the headline is Ricochet's WWE contract is set to expire. Now, I'm gonna read.
Let's stop for a minute. Let's not talk about that yet, because I just want to bring something up. Do you know that this week is the 6th anniversary of Okada and Omega 4?
Oh,
Dominion.
Yes, it is. Probably
that was my greatest match.
Yeah. That for me, it's hard. I think the greatest match of all time is in that series for me. And my favorite match in that series is the second one, the time limit draw. But this fourth one, it's the best 2 out of 3 falls match I've ever seen, easily. It's the greatest climax to a feud I've seen. History, man. History. I remember exactly where I was. I was actually talking about this at work with one of my colleagues, Chris. Big up Chris, wrestling fan. Well, he's not really a New Japan fan, but
WWE fan.
Yeah. But obviously, I think we were just talking about the best matches you've ever seen, and this match came up in the conversation.
What was the best match that Chris ever saw? I'm curious.
Undertaker Shawn.
Okay, fine.
I think it's Undertaker Shawn. Yeah. And I was just talking about this match, and I was like, it feels like such a long time ago. I mean, it was a long time ago, but like that period of New Japan, like I said, like I will die on this hill. Like that was peak professional wrestling. From like from the life that I've lived ever since I've been alive to watch wrestling, I have never seen a company output the level of matches that they did in that period. Maybe you could argue AEW from the beginning in 2019 to up until 2023 before Brawl Out, maybe. But New Japan did it for like 6-7 years. Just quality, 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 and that feud right there is just the pinnacle of wrestling. And obviously we like to talk business, bro. Okada and Omega did business for New Japan. Like they were massive draws,
Yeah.
massive draws. It wasn't just like, oh, these guys are having great matches in front of crowds, or these guys were bringing crowds in Japan, and then Omega was bringing crowds in the States. You think about that show at the Cow Palace. You think about the G1 specials they did in the States. Like Omega was a fucking draw, and
He really was. He really
yeah,
was. He was a big draw at that time when he did his shows in America. He made a noticeable difference to those gates. Always did.
yeah. So I just think, yeah, like now like that feud was just like the pinnacle of wrestling, man. Well built feud. Or they'd basically built Omega pretty much in that feud was in what 2018. So
Well, he
Omega
won the
was
G1. He won the G1 in 2016, so it
17.
started there.
Yeah,
So it
start from there.
started in when he won the G1 for the first time,
Hmm.
leading up to that first Wrestle Kingdom match. So I was talking to someone recently about this, and because that's the best match I ever saw. I love that match. I think the story, obviously, the matches beforehand were part of the story of this one,
Yeah,
and I just think it culminated a full nearly 2 years of a story between Kenny Omega going for that world title and actually doing it.
yeah,
He he finally slayed that dragon. he finally beat Okada
yeah,
because you know that second match that they did where they went to the time limit and he hit him with the one winged angel
yeah,
right at the end. So in his head, it's like he didn't know if he could actually pin him because he hit him with a move, but
yeah,
he didn't even get an opportunity to see if he could kick out or whatever.
yeah,
But then the third one, during the G1 where he pinned Okada, it's like, okay, I can beat this guy and I can beat
yeah,
this guy. I just need to get the title on the line, and
yeah,
he finally did it.
yeah.
And it was such an emotional moment too because that building was just it was electric when he won that
Osaka
title.
Joe Hall, man. Oh,
Yeah, it was.
beautiful.
And then the Bucks came out and Kota came out. Yeah, it was a great time. What a time to be a wrestling fan that was. It's a shame that
Honestly.
so many people missed out on that for their own ignorance
Yeah,
because special
yeah.
time.
Yeah, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't go watch that series in its entirety.
Yeah.
I just think also just that feud, like it it was on Okada's side, it was the end to probably the greatest title reign I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
It was
definitely.
it was the end. It was like the perfect way. What a way to end the title reign!
Mm.
Like in a match like that, in a title reign that includes matches like obviously the Kenny Omega 1, Kenny Omega 2, Katsuri Shibata, Naomichi Marufuji, Minoru Suzuki, Naito, like that title reign, like, and just in terms of match quality and what the title reign did for the company. Um, what Okada, I think obviously it's a collaborative effort, but the draws of that company, what Okada and Omega did for New Japan was sensational. Of course, like people like Chris Jericho coming in and Wrestle Kingdom 12 obviously helped, but those two were like those two, and then if you add in a Naito and a Tanahashi as well, those guys drew money. Like drew money and were in compelling storylines. Like it was the perfect storm. It's like for me is pro wrestling at its best. Great
Yeah.
storylines, full buildings where the crowds are actually there, and world class matches. That's what wrestling is. That's what wrestling is. I don't need anything else. Just give me full buildings decent, good storylines, and then the best matches I've ever seen. And that's what New Japan gave me in the 2010s.
Yeah, I never thought because I thought I was done with wrestling. I really did think I was done with wrestling. We spoke about this recently on one of these episodes where I spoke to you about MMA and Pride, and I just thought I was done with wrestling. New Japan brought me back in, and I never thought I'd be engrossed in a feud the way I was. That rivalry between Okada and Omega, it was such a, like I said, you had to have been there. I mean, we can talk about it now, and we can talk about how great these matches were, and those are on tape, and you can go and watch those anytime you want. Even my son, who's 9, he's watched all of those matches, and he thinks they're the most amazing thing ever. But you'll never quite experience what it was like to live through it at the time, because man, I remember the anticipation for the rematch at Dominion. Because the first one, don't get me wrong, the first one, we knew it was going to be a great match.
Yeah.
It was obvious.
We didn't know how good
it was going to be the best match of all time.
Yeah.
At that point. Who knew? Who'd ever know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I never watched it live. I just heard Dave Meltzer on the show talking about this was the greatest match I've ever seen. And I was just like, oh my God, I was like, I got to see this. I got to see this. And I watched it. Even though I knew who won the match, I still thought this was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And then they beat that the second match with the hour draw. And then they came back and that incredible sprint. They fit an hour match into 20 minutes, which was absolutely incredible. And then, in my opinion, they topped all those matches with that fourth one. And I tell you what, I don't think I'll ever experience anything like that in terms of just, like you said, that was the peak of pro wrestling for me. I don't think Ric Flair in '89 when he feuded with Steamboat and Terry Funk is incredible stuff. And I thought until Okada won that belt, I thought Ric Flair was the greatest wrestling champion I'd ever seen. I thought he was so good. And he was good and he was great. And '89 was the finest year for a world champion until Okada had that belt. And you can't even compare that to anything like happened before or ever since.
Yeah. I think when I watched the Wrestle Kingdom 11 match, I was in my late teens, but it's the first time I ever felt like a kid watching wrestling again. Where Omega's comeback spots, I was literally screaming at the TV, pin him. But like I was screaming at the TV, and then when he lost, I was genuinely upset. But I was like, oh, these man got me. I was so invested in this that I completely forgot about booking. I completely forgot about. I was in the match. And then that second match, just the spots, the storytelling in the ring, the Omega collapsing, or Cody about to throw in the towel, and then Omega it's perfection. That it's absolute perfection. And people at the time, I remember the criticisms were, oh, they're doing too much. The matches were too long. I remember like guys like Bully Ray would talk about the match, but I think those matches, like I haven't seen anything. That's the holy grail of pro wrestling. Like that is the peak of pro wrestling. And the funny part is like on those shows, you'd have matches like Naito and Tanahashi, which were still 5-star matches, but they happen to be on the show with the greatest match of all time. Like if you go back and watch Naito and Tanahashi from Wrestle Kingdom 11 or from Dominion, those matches would be match of the year contenders today.
Well, both of them were 5-star matches, those two, weren't they?
Yeah, both of them, yeah.
And then underneath that, the Wrestle Kingdom one, you had I think Shibata and Ishii was underneath that as well. Yeah,
I think that was Wrestle Kingdom 10. I'm not too sure, but you might be right.
Who Shibata worked then? Was it Makabe? Who did he work?
Might have been.
But he had a great match that night as well.
Yeah.
He had a great match that night, and God, I don't even remember those Wrestle Kingdom cards because they're all so good. I just do.
Yeah.
They were kind of blur into one, you know. And then the Dominion show after that was a great show as well. The 2017 one, the 2018 one had that really fucking good match with Jericho and Naito.
Yeah, they did.
That was a really good match. Which once again, I think that's a match that's been forgotten over time as well because of the card that it was on.
Yeah.
Because, geez, how could you compete with that main event, you know? How can you do it?
And that's the thing about New Japan. New Japan was like the company where, like, It sounds novel now, but like the main event was really the best match on the card all the time. Like all the like usually like they'll be like, okay, there's a sleeper in the middle, but like New Japan conditioned everyone, which is what it should be. No, the main event's the real main event. That's the show stealer. That's the match that's gonna steal the show. Most of the time that was the case. Like even if you think about pre-Omega Okada, you think of Okada Tanahashi or Okada Naito. Anytime there was like a main event, it stole the show. Or you think flash forward to Okada versus Ibushi, or even Kenny versus Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom 13. Like those were always the best matches on the card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kenny and Tanahashi was a great match too.
Yeah.
It's one of those matches that I've forgotten about, to be honest with you, because there were so many during that period. There was so many.
Yeah, there was too much. And then you think about some of the random tag matches you get on these Road 2 shows, like Omega and Ibushi versus Tanahashi and Ospreay, or Omega and Ibushi versus the Bucks, or like just a random combination, just like on these random Strong Style Evolved or random Road 2 shows. Just the quality was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But speaking of someone,
so one more this week as well. Have you ever seen have you ever seen the ECW, the WWE ECW One Night Stand show?
Yeah.
For 2005. That was this week as well in 2005. How many years ago would that be? 18 years.
18,
19 years ago.
19 years.
That was 19 years ago, and that was at the time that was one of the best shows that WWE ever produced. So if anyone hasn't seen that, I suggest they go and check that one out.
Was it Mike Awesome on that show?
Mike Awesome was on that show. He wrestled Masato Tanaka.
Yeah, I remember that match.
Which I tell you what, I actually watched that match with my son a few months ago. Oof, that doesn't age well.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was a crazy match and it was fun and stuff, but Jesus, man, the amount of unprotected chair shots that those guys took to the head was just really, especially knowing how Mike Awesome died after that. It was really unnerving watching that because I was like, Jesus, it was just so brutal, absolutely brutal. But that was a very famous night in wrestling, both what was going on behind the scenes and what was going on camera. So that was a crazy night. But if anyone hasn't seen that, I suggest they go and watch that one. The matches aren't great, don't get me wrong, but if you want to get soaked up in the atmosphere of a show, it was like a real ECW show, which was crazy because no one thought it would be, but they managed to do it, and they even had the music and everything. The music isn't on the WWE network though, obviously, but if you can still enjoy it on the WWE network. It's still good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, speaking of somebody who was in that early period of the New Japan Renaissance, Ricochet. A lot of people forget Ricochet was really very much a part of that early New Japan Renaissance. And then he joined NXT in 2018. Ricochet's WWE contract is currently up in the air. So right now I'm going to read an excerpt from the Wrestling Observer article. This article was released yesterday.
You can leave that. You can leave that because it's been updated since then.
It's been updated, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So it looks like he's done tonight.
He's done tonight, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he's done tonight.
Oh yeah, he looks like he's done tonight. So Ricochet's WWE contract is up. He's been at the company since 2018, and this is a shock to me. I thought he'd be a lifer over there at this point. The money was comfortable. According to the reports, he's leaving on his own accord. So he's the one who issued to leave. After his contract was running down, he's the one who decided to go off and that kind of lead WWE. We've had conversations about Ricochet in general and how we consider him one of like the greatest high flyers out there, but in WWE he wasn't necessarily treated as such. And we've had discussions of, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think Ricochet's not past his peak, but past his prime in terms of being that guy in wrestling, because there was a point in time where Ricochet looked bound for the stars. He looked like the next big thing in wrestling. The way we revere Osprey right now, Ricochet was literally on the level as Osprey. Like, they had that polarizing but iconic match. So they were who knows what the path Ricochet's career would have taken had he stayed with Osprey. But yeah, what do you think Ricochet's career looks like now?
As far as his ability as a top tier worker, I don't know, because I don't watch WWE, so I don't even know what Ricochet's got these days. I mean, when I speak to people, they tell me that he's still one of the best guys there, but what does that even mean? Because you can't really see what he's got. You know, you don't really know exactly what's left. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, he doesn't perform at the top level. Even if he did perform at the top level, you wouldn't see all he had because he'd still be holding back. So, I mean, I don't know what he's got at this stage as well, because he hasn't wrestled at the top level since NXT. NXT, you could argue he was still working to a really high level. But since he's been on the main roster, not a chance. So when did he go on the main roster? What, 2019?
Yeah, 2019.
Okay, so he's been on the main roster for 5 years, kind of just hanging around. It's like, I don't know if he can. I mean, can he go to somewhere else and still be that guy? I would doubt it, because he hasn't done it for so long. He's also older now as well. Do you want to read these comments?
Yeah. Navy asks, when exactly is his contract done?
Well, we don't know that, but from what reports suggest, Mike Johnson has reported that his last night in WWE, as far as his last date, is today, and he's got no other dates after this going forward. So his deal could be up tomorrow. It could be up next week. We don't know. Just to clarify, it's his contract that is up. He doesn't have a 90-day non-compete because he hasn't been fired. So whenever his contract expires, he could show up on Dynamite the following week.
That is interesting because typically we don't see situations like that in WWE where the people let their contract run out. The last notable situation I remember where somebody let their contract completely run out was obviously John Moxley. Typically speaking,
Danielson too, Edge.
Oh yeah. Fairs. They let their contract run out, but didn't Edge was in the middle of negotiating, so we didn't know exactly where he was gonna go.
Well, Edge was talking to WWE and AEW, but I mean, obviously, once his contract expired, he signed with AEW. But he wasn't fired. The guys that were fired and went to AEW after that were like Shane Strickland and
Malachi Black, Miro.
Yeah, Keith Lee, Miro. Yeah, Andrade wasn't fired. Andrade got a release. But I think when he got released, he still had a 90-day though. So they gave him a
90-day release clause. I remember that.
Yeah, so there was that, but all the other guys, they mostly got fired.
Interesting. So I find it interesting, just the timing of things, because usually Ricochet's still been on WWE television as of recent. Obviously I think he was most recently the WWE Speed Champion. It was WWE Speed Champion, which is like it's kind of like their social media title. So he was still like, I wouldn't say quite prominent, but prominent-ish on the product. So the fact that he's leaving says to me that they probably assumed he's probably going to stay.
Maybe they assumed he was going to stay because his fiance works there, but I don't know. Maybe he's at that stage of his life where he's realized he's 35 years old and he's only got so much. Maybe he thinks he can still go to that level. You got to understand as well that, if you think about it, in 2018, Ricochet, when he went to WWE, he was, one of the hottest guys on the independent scene. And, there was a lot of people that were critical when he went to WWE. There was a lot of people that said that they were going to screw him up. They weren't going to be able to they weren't going to do him right. And, I remember even Dave Meltzer saying that he's the one guy that I think they won't screw him up. He said they won't screw him up. And obviously it didn't work out the way they wanted him to. A lot of people thought he should have stayed with New Japan and just, grafted. But you need to make money, and that's what he done. He went to he went to WWE and he gave it a shot, and he's running NXT was pretty good, but after that, the writing was on the wall for him after that. But I mean, you got to think about it though. When he was on that independent scene, he was above guys like Ospreay.
Yeah,
he was above guys like Phoenix and Penta and Chuck Taylor and Trent Barrett and all these guys on the independent scene, the PWG guys. He was PWG champion. When he left, he handed in his he left PWG his last show. He lost the title.
Heck,
And,
even obviously it was a smaller promotion, but when Penta and Phoenix were exposed to like national TV, well, in the States, with Lucha Underground, Ricochet was the top guy in that promotion. Lucha Underground, right. Ricochet was the top guy.
Yeah, there you go. He was one of the biggest deals in the independent scene, and
yeah,
I mean, by no fault of his own. Look, he must. I mean, I hate to say stuff like this, but I mean, from his perspective, he must watch Ospreay and these guys and think, "Damn, that could have been me." He probably watches Kenny and the Bucks and all these guys and the success that they had, and he's probably like, "Man, fuck."
This is speculation. But I heard that at the time Ricochet left New Japan because he wanted to be a heavyweight, and Gator didn't see that for him. But that's all speculation.
That wouldn't surprise me because he's not the only one that thinks that. He's not the only one that would have had that offer, that request rejected. So that's not a surprise at all. He he's bulked up since he left New Japan. He's a lot bigger now than he was then. He's still agile and stuff, but I mean, going back to what I was saying, yes, I mean, he's probably looked at Ospreay, who was a junior heavyweight, who then became a heavyweight and then became world champion in New Japan. And he's probably looking at a lot of other people and thinking, damn, I could have been one of these guys. So I do admire the fact that he's going to give it a shot, and he's not going to rest on his laurels and just stay making really good money in WWE with his misses. And I get the appeal of that. But I do admire the fact that he's willing to, give it a shot and step into the unknown.
Yeah, Navy asks, is this the first time Triple H has taken over, since Triple H has taken over, that someone is leaving because of booking? I can't recall, so I can't recall.
When did he take over? So you're looking
just under 2 years?
No, those grizzled young vets left. Do you remember them? They left.
Yeah.
They weren't happy there. They requested their releases. So there's one off the top of my head. Edge, I suppose, as well, because whatever they proposed to Edge, he wasn't happy with.
Yeah, because I remember Edge wasn't too pleased with the what's that faction called, Judgment Day stuff that he was doing initially. Yeah, he kind of left that faction. He was doing his own thing for a while. Then, yeah.
He wasn't happy with the creative that they offered him before he left. So, I mean, he's another one, I suppose, who left as well. Ricochet, I mean, at the end of the day, another thing you got to look at is that what would he be doing if he stayed? Because he's not going to be a top guy there. He's never going to be a top guy. He knows that. He's not going to even be a top mid-card guy. He's just going to be in the same position he's in. If anything, he's going to get lower as he gets older. So, you might as well give it a shot and leave and see what can happen for him. But I do admire that. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got left. Because I mean, really, I see people wondering where he's going to go. There's only one place for the guy to go.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not stupid here. He's not going to fucking go on a tour of the Indies. He's not. He's got bills to pay. He's got a kid to look after. He's got a missus who's fucking probably high maintenance as well. It's like he's not going to go on the independent scene. He's not going to.
For the sake of questioning, what separates Ricochet from a Dolph Ziggler in terms of Dolph Ziggler was somebody that worked in WWE for a long period of time, had a big name, but he decided to go to TNA instead of AEW. What separates Ricochet from a Dolph Ziggler?
Well, we don't know if they wanted him though. Well, I never heard AEW even wanting Nick Nemeth, to be fair. But what separates the two? What separates the two is that Ricochet is one of the greatest wrestlers of his era. He is one of the most innovative wrestlers of his era. He also has a lot of friends in AEW, that will back
Absolutely.
him as well. And also the audience that, well, I don't know about the audience nowadays, but the original audience of AEW, the ones from 2019
Would
who
have been
started,
very familiar with Ricochet.
they would have loved to have had Ricochet in AEW at the beginning. I'm sure Tony Khan would have loved to have had Ricochet at the beginning of AEW. If Ricochet was in AEW at the beginning, you never know. Maybe he would have been world champion at some point as well. That's how much people think highly of Ricochet in AEW that I know of. But he's got a lot of people there that will probably be willing to push for him. They're not only to get him a job, but to actually make him do something of note in the company.
Yeah. I'm objectively balanced, and on the ball says WWE prioritizes size overall, then it's politics, then sucking up, then mic skills, then wrestling ability last. I've seen this sentiment online that Ricochet didn't do enough to acclimatize himself to the environment of WWE, meaning that he went into WWE with mediocre promo skills, didn't try to brush up on his character. When you go to WWE, you know these things are going to be prioritized, and Ricochet didn't do enough on his part to kind of acclimatize to the environment he was going into. That's a sentiment I've been seeing online, and that's a sentiment I've seen, to be fair, before he announced his release. I know we've had that discussion even on Restings. Am I frozen?
No, sorry, I thought you were frozen. I thought you were frozen.
No.
What do you want me to? Do you want me to give my opinion on that?
Yeah. In terms of like, did Ricochet do enough to like understand the environment he was going into? Because everyone knows like WWE is kind of the place where wrestling isn't valued like that on the main roster. Did he do enough to like kind of like almost like what a Danielson did, where like dumb down his character to kind of suit the audience who's performing to?
Look, let me tell you something, all right? This pro wrestling stuff isn't complicated. And it's, you know, if you watch enough pro wrestling and you study it like some people do, there are so many ways to get guys over. And there are lots of guys over the last, I've been watching wrestling since I was a kid. I've seen so many guys who are great in the ring and couldn't cut a promo to save their fucking. Chris Benoit was one of the greatest wrestlers that ever walked the face of the earth. He was not the most charismatic guy in the world at all. When he spoke in short bursts, and a lot of the time they gave him someone to speak for him, whether it be Arn Anderson, whether it be Ric Flair, whether it be Eddie Guerrero at times. Sometimes they just gave him people to talk for him. Ricochet, I don't want to say Ricochet's a weak promo because I've seen Ricochet cut really good promos before. So, you know, so there's maybe that's something that we'll see more of in the future, because I saw him in PWG cutting really good promos. You know, so, but he's got a rep for being a bad promo, but don't let him talk. And if he does, let him speak in short bursts. Not everyone can be a promo god. Not everyone's Ric Flair. Not everyone is Steve Austin. Not everyone's Will Ospreay or whatever. Sometimes Paul Heyman, you hide their weaknesses and you accentuate their positives. Why couldn't they do that with Ricochet? I don't understand this. Not everyone needs to be The Rock. Not everyone can be The Rock. Not everyone can be Ric Flair, or even, you know, Kevin Owens, or somebody who's a decent talker. It's like some guys are just going to be excellent and you've got to help them out in other areas, you know? And to me, the fact that he didn't improve his promo skills, or maybe he tried and he just couldn't do it, that's not a reason to not push the guy. Because his style, his ability to do amazing things, he would have been a fantastic main event babyface, especially for children and young people, if they really wanted him to be.
Yeah.
And I think they dropped the ball with him. I always thought they dropped the ball with him. And you know what? And in that respect, I really hope that he really pushes it and he's got something to prove when he leaves. I really do. Because just saying that has made me angry. I just explained what they could have done with him.
I'm objectively balancing on the ball. I agreed. It's a misconception of the WWE diehards. When Hogan, Cena, Roman were never the best on the mic, and Brock never Brock rarely ever cut a promo.
Yeah. Great example. Look at Brock.
Brock, yeah.
Think of all the people that they could have put next to Ricochet. They could have had, I don't know who, but how many guys on that roster could cut a promo for him?
Yeah.
Or how many women could do that?
I'll just never forget like those matches where they literally, I think it was one of the Saudi shows where they sent Ricochet out there to die against Brock, and I was like, yeah, he's done. Like he's so done.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember
They
that.
sent him out to die against against Brock, and I was like, Ricochet was always a guy where, from what I watched, because I watched the beginning portion of his WWE run, because that's when I was watching that Raw Weekly. And NXT, he was good. NXT was solid. Like he had his moments. NXT was solid. Really when he got to the main roster, it was just like he's a guy that can do flips. But the product never emphasized that. And he was under a Vince McMahon regime for a long period of time, so you knew he was cooked. But then when Triple H came over, I think he had decent like outings in that certain tournaments. I remember when Triple H came over, he had this tournament that Ricochet did pretty decent in, but nothing of substance really. And it's in my personal opinion, like Ricochet should be viewed in the same light as talent-wise, like a Rey Mysterio. Look how they pushed Rey, even though they did their best to like demote Rey when he was world champion. At least they gave him the championship. With Ricochet, because I remember how they used to shit on Rey when he was champion, it was terrible. But the build to get him there was great. But with Ricochet, it's like you have like literally one of the best high flyers in the world. And we literally, when we had Ospreay on our podcast, Ospreay alluded to it. Ospreay alluded to like the treatment of like a Ricochet a lot. And that's probably a reason.
Did he say that on the podcast, or did he say that after though? Because I don't remember. He said a lot.
He said it after, but then he spoke about I remember there was definitely a point where he spoke about him and Ricochet. And he said like Ricochet was like one of the best of the world at our point in time. And he spoke highly of Ricochet, and it wasn't like, oh, he didn't publicly like shit on WWE, but it was more so like, oh, he was one of the best in the world, so on and so forth. So read between the lines there.
Sorry, have you ever seen Doug Furnas wrestle?
No.
Yeah, I'm watching him now. It's Doug Furnas and his partner, Phil LaFon, against Davey Boy Smith and Owen Hart. It's a really good tag match. Doug Furnas is one of the strongest men that ever wrestled. Ever. He had like a 900-pound deadlift. He was like fucking just a hell of a strong guy. And he had the best drop kick in wrestling I'd ever seen. His drop kicks were incredible. For such a big, muscular guy, his drop kicks were fantastic. But he had him and LaFon, they had this run in All Japan in the early 90s where they had these incredible tag matches. Like really, whenever you do your King's Road run, you'll see them anyway. But yeah, Doug Furnas was a hell of a wrestler. Sorry, I just wanted to put that out there.
No worries. But yeah, obviously, AEW seems like the natural destination for Ricochet.
The only destination for Ricochet, unless he's gonna lose money, and he's not going to do that. There's only one place for him to go,
which is AEW.
Which is AEW. Anyone who thinks in their head that he's going to TNA, you need to get, I don't know, maybe.
What about the love of the game, man? What about the love
of the game? He didn't work for TNA in the first place, did he? So I don't know why he loved it. So I don't see him going there. But I mean, you think about it, he's in AEW. Ospreay's been vocal about him coming in.
Yeah.
He's got the Bucks are over there. He's got Swerve over there.
No, he's got
Adam Cole. He's got all the Trent and Chuck Taylor and all those got Orange Cassidy's over there. The old independent crew are all over there. So it's like, they'll all have his back. He's got people in high positions in that company that think very highly of him. There's some of the names that I mentioned here are some of the heavy hitters in the company.
Yeah.
And, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I said I think Ricochet and AEW, like if this was like maybe like 2 years ago, I'd be over the boot. I'd be so enthusiastic.
Oh yeah.
I guess. But my thing with Ricochet right now is that there's a lot of guys that AEW could and should be doing more with right now. And for example, you can only push a certain amount of people at a time. I'm not saying that they'll cross paths, but do you like potentially halt a push of like a Takeshita or someone to introduce a Ricochet? Adam Cole still got to come back. We've still got obviously Hangman still to come back. We've got Kenny to come back. So like there's a lot of guys that AEW have their hands full with right now. Obviously, Ricochet would be an amazing addition to the roster, but respectfully, I'm not trying to see Ricochet have a random match on Collision, which kind of seems like that's where he's going to slot in that current space of the roster.
See, I don't think he is. I think he's gonna get a shot to have a top spot.
Okay.
Upper mid spot. I can see
Okay.
that. Just because of the amount of people that think highly of him and respect him over there. And, you know, if this would have been years ago, a bottom guy in WWE coming to a new promotion and getting a push would have been a problem because of the perception issue. But nowadays, I think wrestling fans are smart enough to understand this is fake. And, you know, he's not losing to Jinder Mahal or whatever to fucking come over here onto AEW and beat, you know, Takeshita or somebody. I think people are more aware these days. But yeah, I get your point and stuff, but I think because of his tenure in wrestling and the fact that he is so respected by a lot of people, I think he's going to get an opportunity to shine. I think Ospreay is going to really push for him to get something as well, and the Bucks as well, for that matter. And he's going to be a good addition for the. I mean, look, I'm very critical of that TV show these days. I'm very critical of it. In fact, I'm not keen on it at all, if I'm honest with you. I see so much stuff on that fucking AEW TV that I do not like. I see some stuff that I do like, but everything that you just described there and everything that you just voiced concerns over could all be managed perfectly fine. They could all be managed fine if you have long-term plans and you have a handle on everyone who works for you. It can. Long-term booking is always a key. Week-to-week booking will never get you there. And I understand why they do week-to-week booking. I get it. But, yeah, you're not going to get to your goals with week-to-week booking.
Yeah.
Those people that you mentioned, if you need to push people, you have a plan for those people. You can't push everyone. You push 3 or 4 guys. Those are the guys that you're going to push. And you have plans for them, long, drawn-out plans, and you have to stick to those plans. If obviously injuries come up, well, then they come up and you've got to amend those plans, but you have to be confident in what you're doing and you have to stick to your plans and your overall goals as well. And I don't think the problem with AEW right now is that I don't see a lot of people with long-term plans on the show. Really.
No, but I think one of the only not even long-term plans, but sustained pushes is obviously Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay is somebody like you can see like they've got their hands firmly in Will's corner, and obviously they have the match with him and Swerve at Forbidden Door, which I was shocked about. I was shocked that was the match that they went for. I like it. I've seen a lot of people like shit on it, which I don't get why, but I like the match because
don't worry about them.
I like the match because a lot of people say AEW is way too predictable, and then this is like a pretty. I think Swerve retains, but this is still like a pretty high stakes like match, very high stakes, somewhat unpredictable. Like the finish is in dispute. Like nobody's gonna go into this match 100% sure of either result. But yeah, so what do you think the plan is now? You have Swerve win at Forbidden Door, then set up the rematch at Wembley.
I assume so. But then I don't, bro. There's so much that can this sort of drop kick. There's so much that can be done with that match and the direction going forward. It's like I don't expect Ospreay to win. I expect him. No. I do expect that match to happen at Wembley. And you might think, oh, you know, it's not that long of a turnaround. You can have with the right idea, you can bring that match back in August, and there'll be more even more interest in that rematch than there was the first time, just depending on how you book it. Now, there was an episode of Mid-South Wrestling in 1985, right? And there was a match with Ric Flair and Ted DiBiase for the NWA title. All right, Ric Flair was coming through, and Dick Murdoch wanted the title. He felt that he should have been the number 1 contender, but Cowboy gave it to Ted DiBiase. So throughout the week before, Dick Murdoch was so angry because he wasn't getting a title shot, and he was angry at Ted because Ted was getting a title shot. And you know, before the match, he attacked Ted DiBiase. So Ted went in there covered in blood, and he's bandaged up, and he's just dripping with blood. And he's got this baby. You got this hot baby face who's trying to win this world title, but he's losing blood. And the ref was looking at Ted, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna have to stop this." And Ted is trying to fight. He's trying to fight, and Rick is trying to open his cut up even more. And then when Ted DiBiase, he's got his comeback, and Ric Flair's in trouble. Fucking Dick Murdoch comes out again. He drags Ted DiBiase outside, and he gives him a brain buster on the concrete floor. And then Ted DiBiase can't continue anymore, and that was the end of the match. And that was a fucking hot episode of Mid-South Wrestling, and the people wanted Ric Flair against Ted DiBiase in a rematch because they thought that Dick Murdoch screwed him over. That's an idea that I saw the other day because I watched the episode, and I was like, they could do something like that at Forbidden Door. Not saying you can take that idea, but that's an idea that you can do again, because I'm sure Tony's seen it because he loves Mid-South Wrestling, but that's an idea that you could do again and have people interested in a rematch. Now, obviously, I don't know who would attack Ospreay in that same scenario. Maybe Ricochet could come out, but that would lead to probably a Wembley match between the two and not something quick. But
yeah,
there are ways to get around matches. There is always a way to get out of a match and build a rematch to even bigger status than the first one.
Yeah.
Also, another thing you need to ask yourself is, what is Ricochet going to be doing in AEW? Obviously, if they don't do the Ospreay match, well, then Tony Khan needs his promoter's license revoked, because that is a big match that they should do.
A lot of people are rejecting that match online, by the way.
I don't give a fuck what people online say. I think you have to.
People are against Will Ospreay winning at Wembley. They're like, it's too predictable. Like, we don't want that.
That's wrestling. The guy has to win at Wembley. If he's in the main event in his own country in a massive show, he needs to win the title.
A lot of people don't want him in the main event at all. That's the thing.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's if he doesn't, that's bad business. That's bad business. You people want to be surprised and stuff like that, but that's how you kill a town. You want to come back the following year, you have Ospreay fucking lose at Wembley, then we'll come back and you'll have 15,000 people at Wembley Stadium in 2025. That's just how wrestling works. People can complain online about not wanting Ospreay and Ricochet, and I get not wanting it. I totally get that. But as a promoter, you need to present that match.
Yeah.
The same way you, as a promoter, have to present Omega and Okada 5.
Yeah.
We discussed that. Yeah. We don't really want to see it, but as a promoter, you should promote it.
You have to do it.
The same way I mentioned in our group chat the other day, Ricochet and Ospreay against the Young Bucks. How could you not want to promote that match?
Yeah.
Or even the PWG Trios match, the famous one of Adam Cole and the Bucks against Matt Sydal, Ricochet, and Ospreay. Fucking do it again.
No, you've got the talent. Yeah, recycle it. Yeah.
Yes, recycle it. Can you get down? Get down.
Yeah. I think with Ricochet, I think we had this discussion with Ricochet. I say you eventually just build him up to you go through the Lucha Underground route again. Put him against Phoenix, put him against Penta, put him against, luchadors, really accentuate the high flying stuff. Basically show people, hey, these are the type of matches Ricochet wasn't doing over there. Just put him in some crazy ladder matches, just go all out, just Lucha Libre, Vikingo, whoever. That's what you do. That's what you do with Ricochet.
I agree. Just let him go out there and not be the same person he was on Raw. Let him go out there and try and be as much as the old person that he was previously, or a new version of himself. And let him go out there and just go crazy. That's the way he should be promoted. I agree with that. But yeah, I'm skeptical of AEW getting WWE guys in. I think they've got too many as it is. But because I remember saying before that if Ricochet was available, I probably wouldn't get him. But now I've kind of talked myself into the idea of him going there as a way of redemption for him. It's and I actually want him to go there and do well because, for a start, you don't hear much bad things about Ricochet, do you, as a person? The guy works hard. You can tell that. I remember when he was in WWE, you could just see the confidence that got knocked out of the guy. It's I really felt bad for him at times on his WWE run because he was so talented. And there's a bit of a redemption story. I kind of want him to go to AEW and do well, and have those great matches that he's capable of, to make everyone sit up and go, yeah, you know what? People talk about Tony Khan fumbling Brian Pillman Jr. or whatever, and it's like, no,
Ethan Page, bro. We fumbled Ethan Page, bro.
They fumbled Ethan Page, and who's the other one? I don't remember, but it's like, nah. WWE and Vince McMahon.
Oh, what was it? Sean Spears, that's it.
Sean Spears, yes, they fumbled. Tony Khan fumbled Sean Spears. He'll fumble Ricky Starks too, although I don't think he fumbled Ricky Starks. I've told you this. I don't think they fumbled Ricky Starks.
No.
It's not a bad trade though. Ethan Page for Ricochet in theory.
Oh, great trade. That's a bargain. Here's this thing. I know you said you don't want a lot of these WWE. I think Ricochet obviously is a guy that came from WWE, but he doesn't. I call them children of Triple H, right? Malachi Black, like those. How Malachi Black is like Andrade. Those are guys who kind of flourished under the Triple H system, under NXT. Those are guys who like Triple H had their back, and obviously they got released under the Vince regime. So I think a lot of them guys, it's not that they worked for AEW because they had nowhere else to go. And I'm always pay attention to the guys that leave of their own accord. The Danielsons, the Adam Copelands, the guys who leave of their own accord.
Adam Cole.
Those guys fare well. And like you said, Ricochet is like comes from that cloth of the Ospreys, the Young Bucks. He's more like them than he's a WWE guy. Mm-hmm. In NXT, he had a decent run, but it wasn't like he was a top guy in NXT either. So for me, he doesn't carry that baggage of, I need to prove myself in WWE, or I need to go back to the promised land that is Triple H. Where a lot of these guys see, even guys in AEW like Ricky Starks will probably see WWE as the greener grass on the other side. Where Ricochet is like, no, like I'm choosing to leave. I haven't been released. I'm choosing to leave. So for me, those guys fare well. Mm-hmm. Those guys usually fare well in AEW. And AEW's track record of like guys proving us wrong is pretty high. Like Claudio, I remember we used to have conversations about Claudio. We didn't think he was up to the.
I was wrong about him.
Yeah. Claudio did well. Adam Copeland's done really well.
I was wrong about him too. I never wanted him in AEW, but man, I think he's great.
So I feel like great. I feel like if you are a great wrestler, you've got it. You just need the environment. I think it's all about environment. Environments play a big factor, man. And when Ricochet's in an environment like AEW and he's seeing guys work their ass off on pay-per-views, it's gonna inspire something in him. I feel like we're gonna see like Ricochet be Ricochet again. And it's gonna shut a lot of people up. And when I'm gonna tell you when Ricochet's back, when you start seeing people complain about him not being a bad seller, not being able to bump, when you start seeing those complaints in mass.
How about when the Busted Open guys and Eric Bischoff start talking about him being a bust or whatever?
Oh God.
That's when he's probably doing something right.
Yeah.
You got any comments before we move on from Ricochet? Because I want to speak about the other free agents. Any comments that need to be read out?
Let me see. I'm just gonna read a few. Big up Navy again. Osprey winning the casino thing back to back. I was the only weird part, but it's cool that the match is happening. The casino gauntlet match was great. They really figured out the formula this time.
That was a great match. Great match.
I'm objectively balanced. Says AEW protect their top guys and keep them strong, whereas WWE usually just protect and keep one guy strong. That's because it makes sense. That's why most of us predicted it will happen as soon as it was confirmed that Ospreay was signing with AEW. I'm assuming he's talking about him winning that All In.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then big up Lacan. Say. I don't like the way certain guys are acting like he's just a nothing guy. But that happens all the time. As soon as somebody leaves like WWE, it's like
Lacan, when Bryan Danielson left, you remember, Renke, when Bryan Danielson left, the WWE Universe was saying he was never any good. I'll never forget those tweets.
I'll never. People tried to diminish the Yes movement, and there was like the Yes movement. And I was like, huh? Like that was the big Daniel Bryan was the biggest babyface, most universally loved babyface in WWE in an era where everyone got booed.
Yeah.
Everyone got Cena got booed, Roman got booed, everyone got booed, but Danielson was the one universally loved babyface during that period. We ain't seen someone that beloved probably since Cody, and Cody's slightly polarizing. I'd argue Cody's more polarizing than Bryan was back then.
Bryan was a great babyface with WWE. He's a great wrestler, and even then, when he left, I saw so many tweets about him never being that good and good riddance and stuff. And it's like they're always going to say this shit. Roman Reigns could leave for AEW, and they say he was never that good, and they fucking love Roman Reigns. They think he's better than Okada and Kenny Omega combined. You know, so it's like, yeah, you can't take stuff like that seriously at all.
Yeah, I think that's it when it comes to the comments.
Yeah, just also Chad Gable. His deal is coming up as well. I expect him to stay put, though.
I'm a huge fan of Chad Gable. I see a lot in Chad Gable. I do think WWE is the right environment for him because I don't see, like you said, I think wrestling is all about opportunity and relationships. And if he was to go to AEW per se, I think he'd have great matches, but I don't see anyone advocating, oh my God, you need to push this guy. And I could see him easily falling by the wayside, especially with the talent you have on deck right now. But Chad Gable is a supremely talented guy, and the whole gimmick, the shoosh gimmick, I hate that they're doing that to him. Like, he's a proper wrestler, but the audience seem to love it. He's on TV consistently, so if I was Chad, I'd probably stay put because he's on TV consistently. He's a pretty prominent character. It looks like his job's pretty secure, so stay over there because there's no guarantee. Like you said with Ricochet, what Ricochet has in his favor is has people in his corner. I don't know people. I don't know what relationship Chad Gable has behind the scenes. Maybe he does, but from the outside looking in, it doesn't seem like he has like somebody who's going to be in his corner the way the likes of the Ospreys and the Bucks are going to be Ricochet's corner in AEW. And in AEW, I think you need that right now because there are so many people that need to be pushed. So you need that extra incentive. You need that extra backing to really get that push.
Yeah, and also, Chad Gable, as much as I do think he's I think he's a really good wrestler. I think there's guys in AEW that I prefer to see on my TV than him. He's fine where he is. You know, he's fine where he is. No, not knocking the guy. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he'd even want to make the move.
I'll take him over Ricky, though.
Sorry?
I'll take Chad over Ricky.
Oh, 100%. I don't think... I've never been keen on Ricky Starks, really. Sorry, I don't want to... We'll speak about Ricky Starks in a minute. Becky Lynch is also... is up as well, but she's not going to go anywhere.
She's not going to go anywhere. But if I was Tony, I'd get her. Not even in terms of like I think that's one of the few blows to WWE that would really sting. That would sting. Becky's the biggest female. One of the big, like she's the the man movement that she did was like she was the biggest star in WWE. Forget man or woman, she was the biggest star in WWE at her peak. With the Ronda feud and stuff like that. And to take Becky away, it's a statement. Now, you do run the risk of recruiting too many ex-WWE people, which AEW have done, especially backstage. But I think sometimes you got to make a move. Sometimes I feel like this is like, with Becky, I would roll the dice and take that risk if I was Tony. Because I think that's a bold statement. To take Mercedes and Becky away from WWE, that's huge.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I don't think it will matter though. I mean, as far as for their bottom line, because
no, it won't matter. But we go back to the whole perception argument that we've spoken about. Perception wise, taking Becky away is a big piece. It's not. It doesn't. I don't think it derails WWE's momentum in any way, shape, or form. They're still going to be WWE, but it's definitely going to ask questions of how did this happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think it'll be fun. I mean, as from an outsider looking in, but I don't think it'll move business for AW. Although it should, but we've learned that it doesn't matter who they get.
No.
WWE,
They'd have to get Dwayne at this point to move business.
he's the only one. He's the only one.
Yeah.
He's the only one.
Maybe a Cena, but that's
John
about it.
Cena. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
John Cena.
Shit.
Dwayne and John Cena would be the two guys, but yeah, no one else is going to matter.
Yeah, no one else is moving business now.
Because I'm looking at the time, looking at the time. I just want to say, as far as AEW deals that are coming up, one I want to speak to you about is Penta, because there's been a lot of speculation. Apparently, WWE interested in Penta. What are your thoughts on Penta potentially leaving AEW for a WWE?
Back to perception, that's bad. That's very bad. Very bad. Him going to WWE, I don't see what he will do there. I mean, they are trying to push luchadors more, but we'll see. But they're trying with Andrade.
They're putting them on TV, but
they're
not pushing them. They just put them together.
True.
They're feuding with each other when they're together.
They're making luchadors more visible on screen.
Yeah, there you go.
They're making luchadors more visible on screen. But no, Tony Khan. I think, especially with like, you can afford to lose certain talent, but like Penn are the Lucha Bros. Like they are the backbone of AEW. Like they are day one AEW. You can't lose them. Like if Penta wants to leave AEW and just purely wrestle in Mexico, that's fine. But Tony, you can't lose Penta and Phoenix to WWE. It's just perception wise, it's not a good look at all.
Yeah, if I was him, I'd leave. I'd get out of there if I was him. And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, I'm always hearing about how banged up he is. So him going to WWE probably would be a good move for him in terms of this. Yeah, even though he's going to work more. Like, I mean, the style isn't going to hurt him. He's going to work more, but he's not going to go crazy like he does on AEW. But also, he's been there for 5 years. He's been there since day one. And, you know, I remember when he first got in there, I thought that they were going to do something with him. Because he's a great heel. He's an excellent heel.
Oh, absolutely.
I always say he should be one of the main event heels in the company. But it's been 5 years and they don't do anything with him as far as the singles. Now, as a tag team, they do something with him, but his partner's always injured. Yeah. So when Fenix is injured, they literally do nothing with Penta. Like nothing at all, which shows you that they don't see him as anything other than a tag team guy. And when he's not available, they don't do anything with Fenix either. So they come as a package together, those two in AEW and Tony Khan's eyes, I would assume. But don't get me wrong, I think he's fantastic. But if I was him, I'd probably just give it a shot and see if I can get a 2-year deal or something. And chance of getting a 2-year deal these days is pretty low. But I would try for a 2-year deal just to see what it's like. Yeah. Because while I don't think he's going to have he's not going to be a main event guy over there, but is he going to be any worse off there than he is in his current standing in AEW?
Probably not.
It's just, it's just going to be. I'm sure they respect him in AEW and they think highly of him, and he's a popular guy and all that stuff. But I mean, what's he going to be doing for the next 3 years? Like, really?
Just tag team shit.
Tag team shit, or and it's a shame, really, because I think he's capable of much more. When I watched him in AAA, he hasn't been in AAA for a while, but when I watched him,
absolute beast.
I thought he was fantastic, and I was like, man, they need to do that on AEW TV, and they don't do it. So if he did leave, I'd see why. Obviously, I think Tony will probably offer him him and his brother a bag when his brother still comes up. But yeah, as far as what I would do if I was him, I'd fuck off and give it a shot.
Let's adjust some of these comments. We've got a couple. Big up everyone watching live. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. Big up MAA. He says,
she's the biggest.
Becky. She's the biggest star.
Oh,
Becky. That's the Becky. Biggest star in WWE. Minimum top 2. Big up Supine and Smokey. And especially in terms of building the depth in the women's division. The women's division is actually
pretty good.
It's good, pretty good. Like pretty good. They need Becky though, big time. AEW need. Are you talking? Do you think? Wait. I'm objectively balanced. Are you talking? Do WWE need Becky big time? Do AEW need Becky big time? Just clarify that for me, please. Supan Smokey. It's a start, but putting Latinos together is not enough. Listen, I could. Oh my god, I hate the lack of better term race factions. We are all Asian. Let's be together. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I've never liked it. I know people have tried to justify it for different reasons, but I don't like the race factions. No. Like come up like some factions make sense. Like okay, putting Kyrie and Ero together makes sense because they got a Stardom connection. But then when it becomes every faction's a race faction, no, no.
Something Jericho said a while ago because. You know that Santana and Ortiz are in his group, and he said he put them in there because he didn't want everyone to be white, but also he said that he thought it was a different, like it was just a different, like there's a different spin on the traditional group. And if you notice, Brian Keith is with him now.
Yeah,
it switches it up a bit, and I totally hear it. It just. Yeah,
the only time stuff like that works is if you're like an The reason why Bullet Club works is because they're foreigners, but then all of them weren't white either. You had like Tongans and stuff like that. They were just all not Japanese, which is fine. But like I don't know, just doing like I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh on it, but I don't know.
We got any comments here about Phoenix?
Oh, yep. Somebody said Phoenix. I think Phoenix is a bigger loss than Penta.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think so, too. I will say I missed something as well. I want to say this. Because, I always complain about AEW and their lack of Latino main event guy.
Mm-hmm.
When they first started, I thought Phoenix had a shot or Penta had a shot at it. And over time, obviously, that's not the case because they've been in there for 5 years, so they're not going to do anything different. But I'm still waiting for a main event guy, a Latino.
I really thought it should be Phoenix.
Yeah, I still think it should be Phoenix. He's still young. He's like 30, 32, 33 years old. He's not an old guy.
I think it should be Phoenix. Like I still think it should be Phoenix.
Roosh over there. Always thought he had more upside than Andrade. I think as soon as Roosh showed up, I thought he just eclipsed Andrade and everything. I think Andrade's but Roosh has got way more than Andrade. But then if you look at everyone else and you're like, okay, so Bandito is another guy that they've got over there that I think.
I love Bandito. I love Bandito. Bandito's so good.
He's awesome. And then you've got Mystico that you've got access to as well. I'd fucking have Mystico as much as I could. I'd book Mystico if I was them.
Yeah. Let me see. Big up MAA. I don't think Tony misses much by losing Penta.
No, I don't think that. I agree with that.
The Supan Smokey. Hopefully, Ricochet leaving and looking to show in AEW has more to offer as a character because him being Mr. Hooper will have him at the same place as Claudio. AEW do get more girls on TV and elevate girls in industry in general, especially with those big money contracts they're getting. Good pun there. The
girls in AEW get more time to work though.
Yeah,
their matches are longer. WWE usually get more women on TV, but their matches are like a minute and a half or 2 minutes, while women in AEW get longer matches to actually get better. Well, they try and get them better.
Yeah. Because interviews, he's been vocal that he's aware of the perception of him as just a good wrestler and he wants to show more. Because he wants to be the world champion. That's Ricochet.
I hope that something happens for him.
I hope. Right now, I see him at like high TNT level, high TNT international level.
I mean, I think he could be a main event guy in AEW. I mean, given the right push and promotion, I think he could. Whether or not he'd be world champion is a different story, but you don't have to be world champion. You don't need the world title if you just main events is good enough. Bryan Danielson's a main event guy, and he doesn't have a world title.
Yeah,
right now I don't see Ricochet as a world champion, but for all I know, hey, look, you get him in there, get him in the right mentality. He's never cut a promo on television, to my knowledge, on WWE TV without a script. Look, I saw him in PWG, cut decent promos, unscripted, like proper wrestling promo. Give him a shot. He might be he might be really good at it on national TV.
Yeah.
Maybe that was his problem. Maybe that's his problem. He was shitty at reading scripts and he couldn't recite scripts. Maybe that was his thing.
All right. Last two quotes, last two comments, and then get out of here.
Go ahead.
Phoenix is arguably one of the best wrestlers in AEW, top 5 easily. Don't know about top 5 Navy.
Not top 5. Maybe at the start, yeah, but not now.
Not now.
He's still a.
Because off the top of my head, I'm thinking. All right, I'm thinking obviously Osprey. I'm thinking Hangman. I'm thinking
Danielson.
Okada. Yeah, no, not top 5. That's not top 5. Not top 5. No, but he's up. But he's really good. But like that AEW roster on paper is a god tier roster, which is why we should be doing more with them. But boy, we'll be here another hour. One Prince Puma match will change your perception. For Prince Puma, Ricochet's Prince Puma and Lucha Underground was sensational.
That's another thing. I don't know if he owns that name. I doubt it if he owns that name, but he could do 2 characters. Why not? Who says he can't?
Oh,
characters in AEW.
Oh, have you seen the Lucha Underground stuff on what show was it? Was it MLW?
No. Oh my god, yeah. MLW sucks, bro.
Yeah. And I was a fan of Lucha Underground, but that wasn't it. No,
that's proper Vince McMahon, Vince Russo shit right there.
Oh, that was bad.
Yeah,
that was bad. It only takes Ricochet having a good match or something, and getting groundswell support. Then you might have a Swerve situation. Who would have seen Swerve as a champion a year ago? That's fair. I didn't see it. That's very fair.
I didn't either. Not in a year's time anyway.
No, you go. Back then Adam Cole was in line for the title. Supposedly, look at it now. Yeah, pictures can change. Pictures can definitely change, innit? Can definitely change.
I think there's a misconception about Adam Cole's run because I see every so often people talk about, he's booked bad. I don't think Adam Cole's been booked badly at all. I just think he's had a really bad run in AEW as far as his health.
Yeah, his injuries have always delayed his momentum.
Always, and it's such a shame because God, he was off for 8 months the first time. And then he came back. He had a really bad feud with Chris Jericho, but then he managed to come back from that with the MJF stuff, which, don't get me wrong, I didn't like a lot of it, but he was still badly, but he was still in the top program.
Yeah.
And you could argue that whatever he was supposed to do was really good at it, but then he fucking broke his ankle and he's been off for another 6. He's off 9 months now, bro.
Yeah.
9 months he's been off altogether. His whole AEW run, he's been off 9 months. 8 months and 9 months, bro. That's like a year and a half.
Yeah,
he's been there 3 years. This August, he's been there 3 years, and he's off out of that. Half of that, he's been injured. That's mad.
And even with the Adam Cole MJF feud, up until All In, which is the main event, that feud was good.
I liked it for the most part.
There were hokey moments with the kangaroo kick, but it was still like
Chinese food too hot.
Yeah, it was still like a good feud, and that All In main event, despite me not liking the match. Up until that match, I was really pumped for that match. But yeah, it is what it is.
I was as well. Me and my son, we were really pumped for that match because we thought that something was going to happen.
Yeah,
they were building it like someone was going to turn on somebody,
and then nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Then when they did, it was too late. Literally too late because the guy broke his ankle.
Way too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, that wraps up an episode of Commissioner's Corner. Just a heads up, there will not be an episode next week because I will not be in the country. I will be out in Malta enjoying the sun. Not talking about wrestling. So
good on you.
So yeah, but in the meantime, make sure you check out the various pieces of content we have on wrestlings. Like I said, make sure you check out the Gabe Kid episode that we've got coming. Obviously, we've got our flagship podcast that comes out every Friday, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for Indie Takers, the
Wrestling's House.
And Wrestling's House. Yeah, we've got.
You on the new season of Wrestling's House?
Oh no, I couldn't make this one. I couldn't make the call. Nah, I'll
Yeah,
be
we
honest.
got there's some new episodes. If you guys, I'm not on the new season either, guys. But if you want to see me on the old Wrestling's House, I'm on quite a few episodes in the archive. I'm probably on about 6 or 7 of them, maybe.
Yeah,
So yeah, NK's on
definitely.
quite a few of them as well. So
Yeah,
it's a fun little show.
yeah, definitely, man. Definitely, man. Wrestling meets Gogglebox, man. But
That's right.
yeah, man. We appreciate you guys who are watching live. We appreciate you guys in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. This has been Commissioner's Corner. We are signing out. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.